So I think everyone's here who has indicated that they will be here. So I'm going to call the meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust to order at this time. And we'll begin by taking roll call. So when I call your name, would you please indicate that you're present? David Smith.
David Smith, present.
Hunter Carroll.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hunter Carroll, present.
Jamie Knudsen.
Jamie Knudsen, present.
And obviously, Marnie Crouch is present as well. So we have a number of things to cover this evening, probably the most important of which is to interview our candidates for the open spot on the Affordable Housing Trust. But I believe we'll just go ahead and follow the agenda that Pat has dutifully prepared. So has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our March 10th meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Did anyone have any questions or comments about those minutes?
Nope. I'm good.
Well, then I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes, if anyone would volunteer.
I would move to approve the minutes of March 10th, 2021 of the Affordable Housing Trust.
Do I have a second?
Hunter Carroll, second.
So those all in favor of approving the minutes, David Smith?
Marnie, I was not present, so I cannot vote on them.
Oh, okay, that's correct, David. You're right. Hunter?
Aye.
Jamie?
Jamie Knudsen, aye.
And Marty Crouch, aye. And my compliments to Mary Alice. That was a very good job with those minutes, as always. Now we will review the applicants for the vacancy. Casey, I believe your application and your resume preceded Suzanne's just by a fluke, so we'll consider it a coin toss by Pat Shannon when he put the package of materials together. So I will open up your candidacy to questions by our members. So if anybody has any questions for Casey, now is the time. No questions?
Sure, I'll ask one. Hi, Casey. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi, thanks.
Just a question. I mean, I looked through your resume. You have, very impressive qualifications. I just wanted to ask, why the Affordable Housing Trust? What's your interest with affordable housing?
Well, so when I submitted my application, I didn't really know exactly where the openings were in terms of the various trusts and committees. So I was fairly flexible in terms of what was open, but I will say that one of my passions is finding opportunities in my spare time when I can when I can volunteer. Some of my previous volunteering opportunities that I've taken are through Girls Inc., which is a nonprofit organization in Lynn that focuses on preparing young girls in middle school and high school for both college and professional opportunities after their high school, as well as a Big Sister program several years ago. So I'm just really passionate about finding ways that I can offer my time when I have free time and just helping out. I'm fairly new to Hamilton. I moved here about 2.5 years ago, and I have 2 girls who are in daycare. So they're not in school yet, so I don't have a lot of opportunities to be involved with the town of Hamilton. So this is one way that I've found, I would like to become more involved in what's going on in the town. So this is, one of the reasons why I submitted my application. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Thank you. I'm just curious, do you have any, kind of thoughts on affordable housing, like in Hamilton? Are there some like specific projects that you have in mind, or are you really coming into it just, eyes open for any opportunities that may come?
Yeah, just to be transparent, I don't have any specific ideas right now about affordable housing. It's not something that I am extremely knowledgeable in. I do come from the banking industry, and we do have programs where we work with, first-time home buyers, lower income home buyers, things of that nature. I do work on the risk management side, so I'm not as involved in that. But again, it is kind of what you said, just eyes open, looking for ways to become involved with the town.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Casey, it's David Smith. Tell me what experience you have, like most of us probably, in the business of real estate.
So it would really just be personal. My personal involvement in buying, or applying for mortgages. I have my second house now that I own. My first was in a condo in Salem. Again, I work on the risk management side at Boston Private, so I don't really work on the lending side. I do have some exposure to the commercial lending area because our credit risk group works very closely with commercial lending. But again, I don't have a lot of involvement on that side. So I would say in terms of real estate, it would be more on the personal level.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Yep. You're welcome.
Suzanne, would you let us know what has triggered your interest in the Affordable Housing Trust? Because I note, unlike Casey, you just listed the Affordable Housing Trust as a board that you would like to serve on.
That's right, Marnie. Well, I've been attending the meetings for the last, since about November of 2019. You may have noticed me on Zoom or in the Memorial Room way back when, because I did attend a few in person before that. It's just something, I've been a resident of Hamilton for longer, almost 24 years. And it's something that I've seen at town meeting, different zoning rules come up and different opportunities go by, and just kind of wanted to get a little more involved. And I'm really happy about the housing production plan that was approved last year, and would like to see some of those objectives met so that Hamilton can retain its exemption from 40B for the foreseeable year or 2 years or whatever we can garner from that. But it's just a personal interest of mine.
Does anyone else have any questions for Suzanne?
Suzanne, David Smith, again, similar question. Tell me about your experience in the business of real estate.
So again, David, I would say a lot of my experience is more personal. I've worked in financial services for several decades, but not in a real estate capacity or even in a lending capacity. I do have a little volunteer experience with a nonprofit, a community-based nonprofit that was under a building program at the time. So I have some understanding of that process a little bit, but I wasn't really even involved in the construction end, but more in the capital campaign fundraising end of it.
Thanks.
Do you have confidence, and both of you can answer this question, do you have confidence in your ability to review funding applications that would be forwarded to the Affordable Housing Trust, and also local initiative projects? For example, we have on file, and certainly I have with my papers, a LIP that was submitted by Habitat for Humanity and has financial information and an indication of how they intend to build their project out off of Asbury Street. Do you both feel confident that you could bring a critical eye to those types of documents and ask pertinent questions?
Yes, I do.
You want to go first?
Sure, thanks. Yes, I'm confident in my ability to join in that process and to have good questions and a keen eye to review those documents. I think that would be right in line with my background as project manager and all my financial services training as well.
Casey?
Yeah, I would say yes as well. You know, if you're looking for somebody with subject matter expertise in real estate, then I would say I'm not that person, but I do feel confident in my ability to look at something with a critical eye, with attention to detail, and be able to ask those critical questions. One of the, you know, responsibilities I have now is looking at data and making risk-based decisions. So I think that I could take those skills and kind of take that mindset to this. You know, if I had a guide, you know, in working with the other committee members and kind of learning what to look for initially, I feel confident that I would be able to do that as well.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? No. Well, I'm going to summarize a little bit here. I think both of you are well qualified to serve on the Affordable Housing Trust. However, Casey, this is directed at you specifically. Our town needs people on its various boards, and you have indicated that you're open to serving on several. Since we have 2 qualified candidates, but one candidate might consider an opportunity on, say, the Open Space Committee, I am wondering if, and I don't want to offend you, and if my suggestion even touches on that, just advise me and I'll stop. But I'm wondering if you might consider our town's dire need for members to serve on other committees, and now the Affordable Housing Trust has 2. Whether or not you are so committed to this committee that you want us to make the very difficult choice of deciding between the 2 of you.
No, I think it's a fair point. As I did indicate that I was open to several different committees, I am open to just helping. So any committee that needs, you know, another person to serve on it, I'm not partial to anything. You all seem like very lovely people and I would like to work with you. But as Suzanne has indicated that this is the one that she's interested in, I'm certainly happy to, you know, interview with some of the other committees and see if I would be a good fit there as well.
Oh, well, that's very generous of you. And I certainly know that the Historic District Commission has openings, as does the Open Space Committee. And I know you're going to be interviewed by the Planning Board next Tuesday.
Week, yep.
So
yep.
At this juncture, I will entertain any motion that a member may make. As you know, the policy is that we interview candidates for a position on the Affordable Housing Trust, and then if we so determine, we write a letter of recommendation or not, as the case may be, to the Board of Selectmen, and it is their ultimate decision to appoint a candidate to the Affordable Housing Trust. And the Board of Selectmen, as Jamie can confirm, will also conduct an interview. I believe you do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
So if anybody would like to make a motion or not, as the case may be, I will entertain it.
I would move that we approve Suzanne Sofa for the Affordable Housing Trust vacancy to fill it.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Those in favor: David Smith,
David Smith, aye.
Hunter Carroll,
Hunter Carroll, aye.
Jamie Knudsen,
Jamie Knutson, aye.
and Marnie Crouch is an aye as well. So Suzanne, I will be drafting a letter to the Board of Selectmen recommending that you be appointed to the board. And Casey, thank you so much for your generosity in making our
Sure.
decision easy. You never know, there may be an opportunity to resubmit an application to the Affordable Housing Trust in the future. It's
Okay.
it's it's not a no, never. So,
That
but
sounds good.
thank you for your interest, and Suzanne, thank you very much for your interest as well. So,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
the
you for your
opportunity.
time.
Yeah, thank you, Casey and Suzanne.
Thank you both.
Thank you. I'll drop off
you're-
now. right.
okay, Suzanne, you're welcome
Bye.
to stay involved here. So the
Sure.
next
I'd be happy.
item on our agenda is an update as to the Willow Street project. And this project is moving along brilliantly, actually. There appears to be one minor hiccup, and that is the building permit. Pat advised me today that there is a slight delay there, but if all goes well, the loan closing on the Willow Street project will happen on April 21st. And as I explained at the last meeting, we are participating with Commonwealth entities in a loan program. It's colloquially known as Mass Docs. So we have counsel who represents us, and the Commonwealth entities pay a portion, their respective portion of his fees, but the town of Hamilton's portion of the fees is actually paid by the borrower, which is the nominee of the Tregorth companies, and actually will be the entity that's responsible for the construction of the project on Willow Street. So it looks like everything is going quite smoothly. As I said, the only holdup will be the building permit. But when that building permit is issued, 18 units will be added to our subsidized housing inventory. And so that project should get started, I would suspect, no later than May 1st. Would you agree, Pat, based on your conversation with the building inspector?
Yeah, I mean, they've already started some work on the site. They've taken down the single family home. Actually, I haven't been back there. I mean, Jamie's probably seen it since you're.
The single family home is gone.
Yeah. Single family home's gone. They're itching to really get shovels in the ground. The building permit is moving along. It's still within the review period. I spoke with Rich, our kind of interim building inspector, this morning, who he told me that he was going to have his findings to the developer tomorrow. So it is moving along, and hopefully any issues that come up there will get solved in the next week or so.
To your point, shovels in the ground, I can personally attest, as I guess Jamie also could. We're neighbors to the project. I walk by that project with my dog several times every day. I can tell you there is an enormous amount of earth that's been removed to prepare for what to me surely looks like a large septic system on that site. So as of today, it sure looks to me like they're getting ready to install a septic system.
Well, they're ready to go on that project. And as you know, we've committed $500,000 to this project. However, at the loan closing, there will not be a requisition from the Affordable Housing Trust. What has happened is that there's an agent that is now in charge of the Commonwealth entities and the Hamilton Affordable Housing Trust. Our loans are handled by this agent, and the agent has signed an agreement with an entity, PM&C, which provides lender advisor services. So this group actually will review every requisition that's made by Willow Street Hamilton LLC and make sure that the monies that they're seeking are for specific purposes and everything's above board and kosher. And then it will recommend that we approve the requisition or maybe approve it in a lesser amount. So in all ways, I think our $500,000 in this project is well protected. As I said, we have a mortgage, it will be subordinated, but part of the provision of our note and mortgage is that the borrower will be paying the fees of the Mass Docs Council, Ken Gold. So we had town council involved in helping us make the decision to join the Commonwealth entities and be part of this Mass Docs program. And so we will only be responsible for the fees of town council in helping us reach that decision, and also reviewing some of the specific documents that are pertinent to the town's position, the note, the mortgage, the subordination agreement, and most importantly, the restriction with respect to the affordability of the 9 units that are designated as affordable housing in this project. So if anybody has any questions, Pat and I can attempt to answer them, but as far as I can see, it's really proceeded quite smoothly and cooperatively among all the lenders and Dave Tagorth and his partner, Dan Hubbard.
I can see physically it's, there's definitely activity and movement. I mean, I have an office at Willowdale, so I'm walking down that way as well and see the activity. So glad to hear it's moving smoothly and the back end as well.
Yeah, my only worry, and it's a worry that also affects the Habitat project, and I'm sure you're aware of it because it's been on the national news. The price of lumber and construction materials has been dramatically increased because of COVID and I guess problems in manufacturing because of staffing issues. So I just hope that the budgets for these projects can hold and we won't see any blowback because of these increased prices. So that takes care of that, and we can move on to 434 Asbury Street. And Don Preston and Megan, and I apologize that her last name escapes me at the moment. O'Neill, am I correct? Yes. They're moving forward. They were originally scheduled to close on the parcel on April 21st, but they've I think gotten an extension of the option agreement until September. But they are planning to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and you have in your package a schematic as to where they're going to situate the buildings. So in conjunction with that, and anyone who is interested can attend. So I'm going to talk about another project in a few minutes, but the planning board will be presented with information about the 434 Asbury Street project by Habitat at its April 20th meeting. That's those meetings are start at 7 p.m. So if anyone's interested in the presentation as opposed to just reading the lip agreement, that might be an interesting planning board meeting to attend. But I can truthfully say that Habitat is committed to this project, that they persevere, and we just hope again that these COVID-related price increases won't really adversely affect their budget or their time. And Pat, did you want to report at all on what transpired at your meeting with today with the Habitat folks?
Yep, this morning, Patrick Reffett and I met with Dawn and Megan, and I believe they're or another representative from Habitat, mainly to talk about just the 40B process. There wasn't a ton of new information that came out. The one piece of information was that they are not going to be able to go in front of the ZBA for the May meeting. They're going to have to, just due to advertising requirements, they weren't able to get the necessary information for posting notice in the newspaper. The deadline was today, in order to make it for the currently scheduled May meeting. So at this point, they're looking for an early June ZBA meeting. I believe it's June 3rd. Dawn thought that would be all right for the 90 days 90 days post meeting requirements with 40B to stick with their closing. It's cutting it close. So that is a concern for them if they were to have to negotiate another extension. I think they are talking about it just to be prepared. That would cost them another $5,000 to $10,000. So, but from the sounds of it, they should be all right with an early June ZBA meeting. So obviously that's not great news, but it's not, there's no deal breaker. It's not the end of the world right now. Other than that, Dawn said that Patrick asked about community outreach with the abutting neighbors. Dawn said that they're going to plan to do a neighborhood event at the site, invite the abutters to the site to ask questions, see the locations. If you look at the drawings, there's no lot 1 snakes kind of behind the neighbors to the west. So the trees back there won't be impacted. So really there'll be minimal site impacts or visual impacts from those homes. So there shouldn't be too much of an issue there. They said they're going to do some work to try to mitigate any safety concerns out of the driveway. Basically, I think they're going to kind of try to adjust the grade of the driveway so that drivers or the residents exiting the driveway will have better sight lines as they turn onto Asbury. I think they're going to try to do some brush clearance as well. And that's about it. It's really just right now, like Marnie said, going to the planning board, ZBA, and getting the 40B requirements.
We developed the form after our last meeting. I think, Jamie, you had input on that. I had a few comments. So the Habitat folks used that form, and it was in your package. Did you find that the form as it was used was helpful? Or do you think it could use any further tweaks? I mean, there's no law that says that we can't amend it a little bit. So if you found it helpful, I think both Pat and I would be interested in knowing that.
Yeah, just let me know if you think of anything that you'd like tweaked on that.
Look good.
Okay, so next order of business is the Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary. And there are several issues with respect to the development of the seminary site. We start with the premise that it's not, and it cannot be a 40B. So there are two issues. One is a change in use. And obviously the buildings that the developer is interested in acquiring are used for student housing. Now they would be apartments, rental units. So is that use something that the Zoning Board of Appeals would have a problem with? Is it something, if the Zoning Board of Appeals indicated that the use was permissible. Would that result in appeal by abutters? So that issue is being addressed. And then the other issue with respect to the project at Gordon Conwell, of course, is the financing. Because it's not a 40B, there would have to be tranches of financing, but it would be perhaps more complicated than if it were a straight 40B. So the developer, has two significant issues on its plate, and both of those have to be resolved before it can proceed with the project at the seminary. And those two issues have to be addressed within a relatively short period of time, because I think the seminary is interested in getting something going on the site sooner rather than later. But as David has indicated in the past, the thinking is that some of the units would be affordable, some would be market rate, and some would still be available for students. But certainly if all the units counted toward the subsidized housing index, then our goals as set forth in the housing production plan would be satisfied. And that, of course, I think would be a significant benefit to the town. I think it's my personal opinion that that site couldn't be better for housing because of the number of access points. The traffic wouldn't be as impactful as it would be the case if there was just one access point. But I've driven around the seminary, and I think there are at least 3 access points. Is that correct, David? One from Bridge Street, one from Route 22, and one from Woodbury. So, even though there would be a significant number of people living in those 200 units, they wouldn't all be coming and going from the same road. And I think the abutters, and this is only a thought, I mean, they're used to having students there, and instead of students, they would have renters. Is that going to change the dynamic so substantially that it would raise their hackles? I don't know, but it isn't, I don't think the number of abutters is as great as in some other areas. That's an R1B zone, but the lots do appear on Woodbury rather large. Is that your recollection, David, from driving through there, or anybody else? Oh, Hunter,
yeah.
You would know.
Yeah. Marnie, that is
I
quite true.
didn't hear the question, the last thing that you said, Marnie.
It's a R1B zone, but the lots on Woodbury appear to be larger than 1 acre.
Gotcha. Yep.
So in terms of the absolute number of abutters, I don't think there are as many as in a lot of sites. There are none on Bridge Street that I'm aware of on that section.
Marnie, also true.
Yeah, so we'll hope for the best with respect to Gordon Conwell. New business. Well, there are two things that warrant discussion. There is a proposed 40B that is really across the street from the Habitat project, and north and west, but directly abutting the villages at Cannerbrook, which is its official name, but the senior housing development at Cannerbrook. So if you were to drive up Asbury Street toward Topsfield Road and you pass the Cannerbrook site, on your right, or the east side of Asbury, Peter Britton has a large parcel of land which is now farmed, but 4 acres of that site is contemplated by Harbor Light Community Partners for a 40B development. And that project will also be the subject of a presentation at the planning board on May 20th. And that 40B project is a proposal for 45 units. The target population is at 60% AMI. So that's it would be a 3-story apartment building on that site. And so if you would like information about that, I think rather than for me to go through the project eligibility letter request that Harbor Lights submitted to the Commonwealth, the DHCD, I think it might be better if you were to just attend the Zoom meeting for the planning board. But it is quite a high density development on a seemingly small parcel of 4 acres. So while being in favor of affordable housing, I suspect that that project may garner some opposition from the folks at Canterbrook. That's a suspicion, but it may not happen. But again, it's a 40B development, so I think the financing for that project in some respects might be easier than for the project at Gordon Conwell. But again, questions about that, anyone attending the planning board could ask questions about that project at that time. There's an option to acquire the property. Harbor Light does not own the property at the present time.
You said May 20th is, May 20th is the planning board?
April 20th.
And that's 7 p.m.
April 20th at 7 p.m. Yes.
Thank you.
And then the other news that I have, and this kind of came out of the blue, it wasn't on my radar, but Carriage House Junction on Route 22 had affordable units, and 6 of those units are eligible for the SHI. And Pat is investigating that at the present time. Have you made any progress on that?
Yeah, they're back on the SHI.
You're back on the SHI?
So actually, when I contacted DHCD, it was already back on the SHI. It was just, there was some, I think it was an administrative oversight. They had the deed writers. So yeah, it was a lot. It took a lot of investigating to figure out, because I wanted to be prepared when I talked to DHCD, and then it was a pretty simple phone call. So
I think that since I've been on the Affordable Housing Trust, and particularly since I've been chairman, I think it's really wise for us to involve town council in some of these projects so that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, because certainly that didn't happen with respect to 270 Asbury, and it didn't necessarily happen with Carriage House Junction. So we have to be cognizant that our time on the Affordable Housing Trust is relatively limited, and that our successors need to have a full picture. And whether we give it to them or not, town council, if they're involved, will have the records that are required to track these subsidized housing units in the future. And I mean, we because of the CPC funding, have perpetual restrictions with respect to affordability. So we have to think 50 years out, 100 years out, and depending on what happens with the environment, well into the future, long past our times on planet Earth. But we need to think about what our successors are able to do to understand what we have done now. And so we will get town council involved in our projects coming up. But long story short, we have 86 units on the SHI. 6 units did not have perpetual deed restrictions, and those units are falling off the SHI this year, but we're adding 6 from Carriage House Junction. So we're holding our own. And when the building permit is issued for the Willow Street project, we will add 18 units. So we're making progress.
Yeah, and as of right now, we have 92. I was told, I asked about the Asbury Woods units, but when they're expiring in 2021, but I wasn't sure if that meant they're already expired or end of the year. I was told that there's a meeting twice a year, which units get taken off. Apparently it didn't happen at the last one, so I think we should have them for at least the next 6 months or so, but then,
Oh, okay. Well, I'm working maybe from an older list, but anyhow, we're making some progress, particularly owing to the Willow Street project. So anybody have any questions relative to where we stand?
So are we still close to that 3.5%, 4% mark?
we're like right about 3%.
Right about 3%. Okay.
Right, but if owing to the 18 units, we're in a safe harbor mode for a year, but I don't think any of the 40B projects are likely to get off the ground within a year. So we would have to do far better to achieve this safe harbor that's set forth in the housing production plan. But as I said, you know, the seminary project is because of its size would definitely be a way for the town to satisfy its affordable housing needs in one fell swoop. So we have to remain patient, as David says, and optimistic that that will pan out. So at this juncture, I don't know that it's necessary to schedule another meeting unless anyone has strong feelings about that. I mean, we certainly could do it and continue our practice of updates with respect to our different projects. But, you know, perhaps after the planning board meeting on April 20th, Pat could take an informal poll as to whether the members would like to get together to have another meeting or whether we should sit tight for a bit. So I don't think it's necessary to schedule anything now unless anyone disagrees.
Barney, I think that's a good idea. I like what you just suggested.
I'm good with that.
You good with that? Well, unless anybody else has any new business, I think we're at the end of our agenda.
Move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second the motion.
All those in favor of adjournment, David Smith,
David Smith, aye.
Hunter Carroll,
Hunter Carroll, aye.
Jamie Knudsen,
Aaron Knutson, aye.
and Marnie Crouch, aye. And I wish everyone a really good evening, and we'll see you soon.
Suzanne, I'll be in touch with you regarding the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Thank you, Pat.
They meet next Tuesday, so it'll be the one after that, 2 weeks from Monday, most likely.
Okay.
Okay.
And
All right, thank you.
I will get a letter drafted for you, Pat, and we'll take care of that.
Great.
Good night.
All right, good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.